Hi everyone, welcome to Mentally Strong Mums. My name is Alina Bishop, and I thank you so much for being able to join me again for another session. So, this little podcast is going to be about generational legacy. So, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this before, but this is really important and special, especially for you as a mum we all know about what kind of legacy financially you want to leave for the kids or some kind of other legacy that you want to be able to leave. But in terms of mothers, in terms of values, ethics, and morals, what are you passing down? And a lot of the time, when you've heard me talk about the past, with our own parents. Sometimes our parents have a toolbox, whether that toolbox is their toolbox, but it might be faulty, it might be obsolete, and it might not be helpful. So within your toolbox, your generational legacy, what did you get passed down from your parents? Was that helpful for you? And if you're able to reflect on that, then what do you want to be able to hand down to your kids, right? So, what legacy do you want to leave your children? And obviously, as mums, we play a powerful role in shaping the next generation, not just through lessons we teach, but also through the values, ethics, and morals that we model every single day. So, monkey see, monkey do. So, whatever you do, your kids are going to copy the things that you say, it's a certain percentage of what they're going to do. Do you know what I mean? But whatever you say and whatever you do, that's what they're going to be able to copy and mimic. Okay. So in this episode of Mentally Strong Mums, I'm going to explore how to intentionally reflect on the legacy you would like to choose down. You would choose to pass down as opposed to just repeating the past, repeating the previous generational legacy, and using old toolboxes. Okay. So, we're also going to discuss practical ways to instill kindness, resilience, and integrity in our children by also breaking down generational patterns that no longer serve us. So, whether you're carrying forward beautiful traditions or creating new ones, this episode, we're going to help define the values that matter most and ensure that they live on through your family for generations to come. Really good, meaningful, purposeful ones. So, when we think about generational legacy, we need to define legacy beyond material inheritance. So it's about values, beliefs, as well as emotional well-being. So you always sometimes see that, oh, my mum was really anxious and she never sat down and she was always fussing about everything. And you're like, yeah, cool. So how are you? Exactly the same. All right. So how are we able to give our children what we ideally want by demonstrating that ourselves? So it's really, really important to reflect upon your personal values as a mum. It's essential for shaping your child's character because you don't want to be a hypocrite. If you are trying to convince your kids to be resilient, but you aren't at all, or you haven't learnt it, or even trying to teach your kids boundaries, but you've got none, and then you've broken the boundaries with them anyways, you've got to practice what you preach in a lot of this as well. And if you don't know your ethics, values, and morals, then it feels like you're all over the shop. Okay. So what's that saying? If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And it's that saying because if you're not standing for your values, ethics, morals, what you believe, where you want to go, who you are, you'll be like this a leaf in the breeze and you'll just fall for anything and go along with anything and change at the drop of a hat. So, especially with kids, understanding that they need consistency, but so do you. Okay. We also need to know the invisible impacts of generational influences. So, what gets passed down without us realizing it? So, what's one value that your parents or even your grandparents instilled in you that still impacts you today? And even if you didn't have caregivers or parents or grandparents that did that, if you had an auntie or a teacher that you can think of that was really important and special to you, that one value that still impacts you today, You got to be a person of your word. If you say something, you have to do it. Okay. So for me, I realized as well through doing all of my own work that the morals and everything I was passing down wasn't relevant anymore. So I needed to be able to change what my values, ethics, and morals were. So there was this example when my kids were little and they were really upset and they fell over and hurt their knee and they started to cry. And in that moment, I realized that my mum's words came out of my own mouth. So they weren't my words, they were my mum's words. And there was something along the lines of, don't worry about it, hop back up, keep on going, stop crying, just move on. Dismiss, keep on, hush, hush, everything's okay. All right. I used to do that because in my mind, that was my go-to, that was my toolbox. But then after doing all of this work within myself and understanding about attachment theory and understanding who I am authentically and being brave enough to be able to say what I actually want to say and parent how I want to parent, I realized that even though that was helpful for her, it's not helpful for me. And there's no shame and judgment over the past or other mothers or how they parent, or if you even do and say those same words. I'm not shaming you or making you feel bad in any way, shape, or form. All I'm saying is I need to find out who authentically I am, the kind of mother that I want to and be true to myself. I want to be able to parent and be that person for my kids that I want to be. And I want to be purposeful and intentional about it as opposed to on autopilot and just repeating other things that other people have told me when I was a kid, whether it be from my mum or my dad or my aunties or my grandparents. And I'll always remember my grandma, my nana. Alina, just because you say something, it doesn't mean it's right. Yeah, okay. Do you know? So it's about understanding what serves you, what doesn't, who you are, do you even know who authentically you are, and being brave enough to parent the way that you want to. Because obviously there's a whole saturation of parenting, blah, blah, blah out there. But are you able to take the bits that are relevant to you, throw away the bits that aren't, and then being able to be brave enough to step into your motherhood and truly believe in yourself? So you understand, especially because of all the research, there's been so many psychological studies on how children internalize values from their parents. So this is done consciously and unconsciously. So you've done this as well with your through your childhood. So there's also the role of mirror neurons. So this is about learning behaviors, why kids just don't listen to what we say, but they actually absorb what we do. And so that's if you, what is it? Do as I say, not as I do. They're going to do what you do. Monkey see, monkey do. And that's the role of mirror neurons in this as well, to understand the science behind it all. So we've got to understand as well, do we actually need to break cycles that aren't relevant to us anymore or cycles that are obsolete to be able to then reinforce our current values? So, how do old generational beliefs, if they are healthy and you want to keep them, oh, are they harmful? And I prefer to let them lay where they go, right? But understanding how everything within the family can sometimes get passed down and how the importance of storytelling and tradition can help strengthen moral development in children. And especially if you are First Nations, First Nations have beautiful stories and dreamings and narratives about obviously a whole wide variety of everything from how Australia was to families to all the stories that are really special and important. And sometimes it's that beautiful thing of connecting together, and it might just be a story. But in the end, there's always morals, values, and ethics about the storytelling, and the traditions strengthen the connection, especially with all of those beautiful family traditions. So, especially if you are First Nations, And if you are not First Nations, understanding, maybe looking with curiosity about storytelling and how it's important for families, and maybe have a couple in your own home. Okay. Dreamtime Serpent and how that happens. So I come from Alice Springs, and so all of that was really quite familiar to me, and it was beautiful and lovely at the time because you're a child, whatever. But when you reflect upon back, it's beautiful and it's lovely, and you should be lucky and grateful to be a part of that as well. So I want to be able to now give you some actionable strategies about how to define your values, and then how to be able to purposefully pass them down. So, whether you want to do homework or you want to speak to someone about this, but you need to be able to clarify what are your core values. So, can you identify 3 to 5 core values that you want to pass down to your children? So, is this kindness? Is this resilience? Is this honesty? Is this appreciation? Is this respect? And sometimes with that respect, you respect your elders. Well, you can't just blindly respect people because they also need to know what that feels like. So then you need to respect them as well. You don't just respect someone because of. So what does that look like, right? So imagine even in your family to be able to just start of the year, clean slate, creating a family mission statement that reflects these values, and then being able to tweak it and revisit it. Sometimes as well, when you someone moves into their home, you can buy one of those things from a cheapie shop, and it's a cute little board or frame that says all of my family values. And then maybe choosing 3 or 4 of the most important ones for you that we want to value in our house. Okay. Number 2 is model what you teach, practice what you preach. So if your children will learn more from your actions than your words. So if you value kindness, then let them see you being kind to others without expecting anything in return. So you got to be if you that value was respect, how can then you respect your children and show them respect so they know what that feels like, and then they will respect you back. With resilience, it's been a crazy morning. I've lost all my stuff. I don't know where my car keys are. I'm running really late. Just a basic example. And then how can you demonstrate resilience in those situations as opposed to getting whisked away with anxiety? And resilience, emotional resilience, that's just a basic example of resilience. Do you know? So we've got to be able to do things that are really important for you. And then also sharing stories about people who embody the values that you want to instill. So we even tell them why Pop was so important to me, Poppy Beatty, because he was such a gentleman, and his value that he instilled in me was to always be a good sportsman. You always be humble and you always be a good sportsman. And when you lose, you don't spit the dummy. You go up to the other person and you shake their hand and you say, good game. You be a good sportsman. You be humble. It's very, very important. So then if that's a really good value to you, oh my God, I'm getting emotional. He's passed away. So I'm like, oh, I really miss my pop. And that was such an amazing value moral that he gave me. And he was one of those people that no matter what you said or what you did, he would always have your back and he would always support you. Even if you went there and you went, you know what? I want to go on the moon. I want to land on the moon. And he would go, well, you go do that. I'll just stand and watch you here. So what do you want to be able to instill for your kids, right? Understanding as well to break generational patterns that no longer serve you. So this means being intentional about changing outdated beliefs or unhealthy family dynamics. So sometimes when people come in and see me, they don't realize that I have unhealthy family dynamics because in my mind they're normal to me because they were my family. That was all I knew. And now that I've kind of either married someone else or I've met other mothers, and what was normal to me, I thought was healthy, and I realize it's actually really toxic. There's a lot of confusion and shame about that because I lived my entire life thinking that was normal and then realizing it's actually unhealthy or toxic. We don't do that anymore. Okay. So then what do you want to do in your own life? Okay. So anxious avoidant attachment. If you grew up with the idea that emotions should be hidden, you have to be hyper independent, you can't rely on anyone, and you run from conflict, you might then choose to raise your children in an environment where feelings are openly discussed and validated. Hashtag secure attachment, right? So then being able to practice self-awareness and notice when old patterns show up in your parenting. But especially if you are anxious avoidant attachment and you're trying to really be secure attachment with yourself and your kids, when you try and do those exercises, believe me, you are going to get triggered, okay? You're going to want to run, you're going to want to shut down, you're going to get angry, but it's all an evolution, baby, right? We also need to create meaningful family traditions. So, traditions that reinforce values in a tangible way. So, maybe one of our values, I want to have appreciation for the little things instead of taking, beg my pardon, everything for granted. So, a gratitude jar, or even a weekly family meeting, acts of service during the holidays, whatever that kind of looks like. So, these are little rituals that align with the morals and ethics that you want your children to carry forward. Okay. So, with all of this information, are you able to write down your top three values and then reinforce them in your parenting? And if you don't have them for yourself, maybe think about the people in your life, such as that story with my pop, that his value was you always be a good sportsman, you always be humble. And I love that. And if you don't even know what your own stuff is, steal it from the people that made you feel warm and fuzzy and safe. And that was something for me. Meanwhile, he also told me, geez, Alina, it looks like you enjoy the taste of your own cooking. That was when I put on a little bit of weight, which I still have. And you're like, thanks, Pop, leave me alone, right? So, how can you be the best version of you that you can be and evolve, right? And then even if your partner get them involved as well and either replay this if they can tolerate the sound of my voice. Otherwise, just have little conversations about who was special in your life and what morals did they pass down and how can we pass them down. So what are obsolete, what are still relevant, okay? What is one value from your upbringing that you want to carry forward? And what is one that you definitely would like to leave behind? So, mums, embrace your role as the generational change makers. It's not about perfection because I would fail, but it's about intentionality. So, remind you that every moment of parenting, big or small, shapes your child's sense of ethics, resilience, and identity. But you've got to be able to put things into practice. So you can't be a hypocrite. Okay. You've got to be able to do it yourself. But once you get into that routine of doing it, you'll feel really good about yourself. And then it will change everything from the core. And then these are the people you will then be surrounded by and gravitate. It will then increase your happiness, whatever modality you're into, increase your vibration, and it will in turn do that with yours as well. Okay. You need to really reflect on what truly matters to be able to start reinforcing those values today, especially New Year, New You, what is it, Lunar New Year as well? It's your second chance. Let's go, right? Your legacy isn't just what you leave behind, it's what you live every day. All right. So, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all enjoyed that and it gives you something to think about. And I can't wait to see you next time. Bye.